kids. Can you wave? It's my pleasure to present Jenny Swim with her performance art piece, Dropped.
Dust returns to dust. And dust returns to dust.
Thank you everyone for coming. We're going to start off our religion, spirituality, and the arts performance tonight with a poem by Tracy Mishkin.
Exile. I have shattered like misfired clay. I have dried my feet with old news, known the hard embrace of shame. I have been contained. I have spun in the gutter. I have woken with crusted eyes, glass fragments festering in my fingertips. I have stood over my own body. I have crawled. I have pried open the world for molten rock. I have scrubbed stains in water so cold it burned my hands. Patches over patches on my only coat. The art of mending. I have been forged and tempered. I have read the psalm for the brokenhearted, struck flint on bone. I have heard God whisper behind me. I have not yet kindled flame.
And now it gives me a great pleasure to introduce the originator and the director of the Religion, Spirituality, and the Arts Initiative, Dr. Sandy Sasso, Rabbi Emerita of Congregation Beth El Zedek.
Well, thank you all very much for coming. In just a moment, I'll just give you a brief introduction to the program and have an opportunity to thank a lot of people who made this possible. But this is a collaboration between Butler University and Christian Theological Seminary, and Callie Smith, who's representing CTS, would like to give greetings. Callie?
Thank you, Sandy, and welcome to Christian Theological Seminary. I stepped away from the mic. Oh. Well, in spite of that, it is our pleasure to host this evening and to share this experience with you. CTS is a graduate-level ecumenical seminary. We have programs in theology and ministry and counseling. And on our website, we claim that we welcome both peacemakers and troublemakers, knowing that they're often one and the same. And so that's part of our pleasure in joining with the Religion, Spirituality, and the Arts Initiative, getting to see the troublemaking, hope-inspiring, peace-dreaming work that goes on here. So many thanks to Rabbi Sasso, many thanks to the artists here tonight, and many thanks to you for being part of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Callie. This is actually the 6th exhibition and performance for religion, spirituality, and the arts, which is a partnership with Butler University and Christian Theological Seminary. So as you can see from looking outside, and as you will witness here during the performance, amazing things can happen when individuals from different religious and spiritual perspectives and from diverse artistic disciplines come together for 8 weeks of sustained reflection and conversation about one sacred text. So I don't think I need to tell you the text we were looking at is Genesis, the story of Adam and Eve. And that's what we studied. Actually, it's very uncommon for visual artists, musicians, and writers to have the opportunity to build a shared community of thought and practice. You know, artists, visual artists work with visual artists, musicians work with musicians, writers work with writers, but here we brought everybody together. I think I can best express what this seminar has meant by using the words of one of the artists. It has been an amazing experience in terms of community, blowing me apart and then putting me back together again. It is sacred, it is prayer, it has been transformative. Well, I have to honestly say that working with these artists has transformed me and helped me see old narratives that I spent a lot of time studying in a totally new light. We are appreciative to the Lilly Endowment for the generous grant that has made this possible, and to the Central Indiana Community Foundation for their financial help as well. So there's one person, I'm going to thank all the artists, and I'm going to ask them to stand, and all the faculty who have done this, but there's one person I really would like to recognize tonight, and that's Annie Minnick Beck. And Annie, I can't see you, but I know you're here, so could you come here?
Yes.
Yes, come up on stage. You now have to perform. No,
You wouldn't want that.
no. Well, Annie has been the administrator for this program since we began, and I don't have enough words to express my personal thanks to her. You have no idea how complicated putting all this together is. Trying to get artists to pay attention to emails, making sure they come to the right place, holding my hand through moments of like it's never going to happen. We're not going to have enough artists. We're not going to get the exhibition off. I mean, she has been extraordinary. She has, she has been amazing. And since the reason I am recognizing tonight, we are moving the program from Butler to IUPUI's Art and Humanities Institute. We're close to moving it there. We're waiting for the grant to come through, but we're pretty close. And since this has primarily been a program for people who are graduates and not undergraduates, we felt we needed to be in an environment where there were a lot of graduate students. We're hoping to still partner with CTS. We haven't gotten the answer yet. And we are looking for artists for the coming year. We will announce in the spring. So if any of you are artists or no artists, please sign the sheet outside. But I want to really take Annie with me because it has been incredible. And we wanted to give you a gift. Thank you. So I called one of the artists who knows you, and she made something to your taste. So this is a gift from us at RSA with great appreciation. My pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you. Well, I don't have a gift for this person because he's coming with us. But Dan Cooper, who is behind the camera, has, hello. Yay. He was an artist in our first session, and he has stayed with us all through the other sessions. He comes to our seminars and videotapes our conversation and puts together interesting conversations of artists over text. He hung this exhibit and put it together. He made this performance possible. I am eternally grateful, and you must come with us as we move our program. So thank you so much. There have been other people who have been involved, Ben Leslie and our student assistant Emma Ryan, who have helped out through the semester. The faculty, I'm going to ask the faculty to rise as I mention your name, and I'm also going to ask the artists to rise so you can recognize them. This has been an extraordinary group of people, and I hope all of you as artists will stay connected with us. We'll keep sending you emails, don't worry. So our faculty for this year were Julie Moore, who taught, I can't see anybody, I'm assuming you're standing. Shari Wagner and Eric Stark. We also had James McGrath and Chad Bauman from Butler's Religion Department come and teach a session as well. So thank you, James. I know you're here. And Chad. The video you saw, which we'll probably play again, was an exercise by Shari Wagner, who was the past poet laureate of Indiana and taught our literature. And she gave us a bag and said, pull out a fruit, now write a poem. Pretend this is the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And there was a challenge for me personally, but this is what came out of that exercise, and Dan managed to put it together with beautiful music and background, and so I hope that you had a chance to enjoy it.
There's grab bags with different fruit, and so what you choose, you'll be writing a little poem about, or it's a rough draft, okay, so even it could just be a list of details, but your argument of why it was the lime or the orange or whatever. The oh, I can't see. Do you want to do it too? Oh, it's a surprise. Oh, I we choose? Yeah, we do choose one. Can we trade? Yeah, I don't care. It's a beautiful one. You really think there's
the fruit, it must have been an orange, sun-kissed in the garden. Adam and Eve would have noticed that. Heart, beating, blood, orange. This one, at last, the navel of the earth.
It doesn't look like a fruit. It looks like a rock. Surprise is inside, so buttery and soft. Taste make you wonder and improvise. Try with sprinkle of salt. Enjoy the discovery magic and fantasize.
Apple of my eye, luscious like you, bumps and all. The imperfection of its skin gives way to such tender, white flesh of my flesh. Eat of this, devour it, plucked by my hands, this orb, this circle of longing that breaks us, pushes us forward, one into the other. We lean into the tree that holds this perfect offering to me, to you.
Love apple. When Adam relented and pulled the tomatillo from the vine, the snake woman sighed as though she had been holding her breath. He dug his thumbs in, shifting the papery skin. The fruit split, and he saw the fan of seeds inside, like the tail of the bird Eve had named Peacock. Without tasting, he brought the halves to her in cupped hands.
It was definitely the plum, not the apple. With its two perfectly shaped halves inviting you in with its flesh-like mind, how could you resist? How could either of us resist? We were created to taste the knowledge within.
It's curious, round, squat, firm, topped with a built-in fig leaf. It doesn't look tasty, so what could it become? A hellish lump of baked, brown, overly sweetened and spiced pudding? Or, if left in its natural state, love at first sight, when you open it up and see the stars.
Once bitten, it spills red blood. Strong and firm, but easily bruises. Diced and chopped, but rarely indulged alone. The heart of all fruit, but never accepted. Is it being punished in constant turmoil? The fruit of Adam. Does it grow from root, or is it the root of all evil? Some spew at the hint of it. Others simply savor its red juice. When will it finally be accepted? To the garden of fruits. The temptation of Eve, the tomato.
The pomegranate. Persephone couldn't resist, and neither could Eve. See for yourself how each quartered slice reveals a cache of garnets. Seeds both sweet and bitter. They glisten like caviar packed inside the honeycomb of a heart. Eve dug them out with her fingernail. All those seeds of possibility, bright beads to clasp her neck and dangle from a wrist. So what if they stained her hands and lips? She would make of herself a Persian garden, her body a beautiful tree, with rings inside of rings, and flowers that shed their petals to form a leathery husk, a locket to hold 1,000 tears.
His choice. No, it wasn't the apple. Juice of pearl, white star crunch. Nor the peach. I pulled from between the arrow leaves of that laden tree. Hear the peach moon in my palms. I offered him, rubbed on his cheeks, the fuzz, fragrant of heaven. Let's bite into this soft, fleshy fruit. I said, tongue the sweet juice for a peachy kiss. No, love, look at that tree of globes, green as darting lizards, green as the parakeet feather in your hair. Let's pick one of those, he said, hold the egg of the verdant world. And we split its skin. Oh, the tickle, the pucker. Yes, squeeze its rainy mist, he said. Let it take its place into this vodka gimlet. Forget the bite. Drink up this time. It was the line.
Not an apple, not even close. The prize is long and strong, with tight flesh protecting its fragility.
Bananas have appeal and potassium.
As I peeled back its layers and blushed at the sight of its nakedness.
Skins slide off, slip and get the sillies.
I gently pressed it between tongue and roof of my mouth.
Bananas, so tempting to caress and kiss, shameless bites.
As I tasted, it's everything I've always wanted.
Too late.
Grapefruit. The English word itself is confused. No one makes wine from it. After all, the Latin tries to smooth over the problems. This accidental offspring of Citrus sinensis and Citrus maxima, a Chinese emperor, becomes Citrus paradisi. So, perhaps?
I do want to recognize the Butler Chorale under the direction of Eric Stark, who are up here. Yay. They will be performing at the very end of our program to conclude the program. We will be having this, the show has to come down today or tomorrow because they are doing work here in the building, renovation, and so we didn't want to keep it out while there were lots of dust and things around. There will be another show of the art at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Indianapolis in June. So you'll keep looking on our site and you'll get more information. So we hope that you will want to apply, tell artist friends to apply for the program in the fall. The program at IUPUI is under the direction of Dr. Jason Kelly, and any chance he's here? He should have been. Okay, so I hope you will enjoy the program. I know you will. The artists who are performing in this order are Bonnie Maurer. Tracy Mishkin started, but now Bonnie Maurer, Becky Archibald, Mary Sexson, and then the Butler Chorale will perform All Is, directed by Eric Stark. Thank you very much.
Hello. Can everyone hear me? Okay. The Adam and Eve story presents many questions for me. How old was Eve when she died? When she left the garden at a young age, I imagine she lived in a variety of gardens of her own making. Did she continue a conversation with God? I have wanted to write this poem about my mother for a long time. Betty in the garden talks to God. Over here, in this garden chair, Mums, scent of peppery autumn. Mums I can no longer see, the awful harbingers of cold. Yet I am told still brassy in pots at my feet. Look, God, I am blind. How much rain can the wind fling to my arms, thin as butterfly wings? I hold nothing, only this glass of rosemary tea. I move through black without stars, except for the shadow, gleam of my daughter's teeth. Atoms ago, I was lithe in his arms. We twirled to stardust at the Purim ball. Time and space, trysts of joy. At 20, we journeyed out not far from the river. Our first house, I designed a turret among willows. I could climb to the clouds with my sewing basket. When we traveled west, issued for the war, I gave birth to a son. How many times I created the garden for love. The second house, I planted beds of black-eyed Susans, lilies, mustard seed, the cherry tree. 2 sons, 2 daughters called bob white songs from the fields, sulphurous flitted, bright as pennies. The children followed the river's dissecting directions. Was the copperhead coiled at the door an omen of grief, grim faces? When Adam died, I met another at the seashore and lived in a wooded house. For each stair step, I chose a brilliant hue under the skylight, and the covenant you promised flickered on the walls. God, we danced in that rainbow. When he died, another opened his arms for me, and we lived between the sun and the mountains. I picked the Maurer lemon trees in the garden and ate of the resilient fruit. Adam after Adam after Adam, I took you with me, like a storybook tucked under my arms. You and I walking the thin thread of matter, extravagant in fortune and loss. Where are you? Alone at 96, expelled from clock and calendar. I am an old Eve, my heart an apple. No, my heart, one of those apple dolls all wizened. Daughter on my arm, escort me to that bowl of figs you say waits for me on the table. Thank you.
I thought I'd tell you a little bit about the piece. I was trying to kind of weave a few things together. I wanted to make something new out of something old. I wanted to tell the Adam and Eve story in a new way. And I wanted to work on making short movements, see if I can tell a story in a few measures. So I have 6 short movements. What happened, the old thing that came to me one day, and when ideas come to you, and whether you consider yourself a creative person or not, you are. But anyway, when an idea comes, sometimes you go, oh, that's really dumb, I'm not going to do it. But often, if you go ahead and do the dumb thing, it can lead you to something really special. So the dumb thing that came to me was use old, ancient rhythms from music that is so old, nobody knows who wrote it. And I'm not talking about hymns, I'm talking about music that probably most of you know, because it was sung to you when you were young. And maybe your parents had it sung to them when they were young. So when the idea came, I went ahead and pushed record, and I just started humming the rhythms of old songs. I just kind of let it come to me. I didn't really make a list. I just started humming and trying to follow the rhythm and let the rhythm lead me. What I thought was a kind of a not so good idea, it ended up that these old songs, the lyrics also started working their way into the new thing, and I was able to link them to the Adam and Eve story. I'll just give one hint, because I could just talk too much, but the opening is called Now Introducing, and it starts with a rhythm that goes da-da-dum, da-da-da-dum-dum. You all know that? Da-da-dum, da-da-da-dum-dum. So I'm following this rhythm, and it ends up turning into two of the movements. One is the opening called Now Introducing. One is later on. It's called A Lovely and Fearful Thing. But that da-da-dum, da-da-da-dum-dum is actually from an old melody that you might know called Did You Ever See a Lassie? So that rhythm enters, but it's never the right melody and it's never the right harmony. I mean, it's right for what I wrote, but it's not the original. So anyway, that was my conceit. And I'll go ahead and tell you the movements. So Now Introducing. The next one's called Mulberry Blues, which may give you a hint of where I got it. The next one's called Eve's Lullaby. And then it's, and then it dawned. There's so much I want to tell you, but we'll talk later. And then it's A Lovely and Fearful Thing. And then the last one's called Persimmon. And if you happen to see the poetry earlier, I took the poem that I wrote and I made music out of it. So I hope you enjoy. The whole thing is called Hums from Mother Earth. best partner ever.
I had a whole long little introduction thing, and I've just cut it in half. The main thing I need to tell you is that it's really no surprise that I latched on to the story of Eve through this seminar. In particular, how she came to be represented in artwork over the last, 3,000 years or so. And I found myself, in my own words, channeling her through my ekphrastic poems, which are poems that are written in response to specific artwork. And I became familiar with these works of art through our seminars. Thanks especially Julia Moore for that. And I've chosen the artwork of 3 different artists, Marc Chagall, Michael Burt, and Fred Tomaselli, purely and specifically because of their portrayal of Eve in these works. It's given me a chance to poetically respond and express in the persona and the voice of Eve. So if you will try to imagine while I'm reading that I'm speaking, that she is speaking through me in a way. There's also mention of another kind of goddess, Nut, who is the Egyptian goddess of the sky, and she crops up in one of my poems. My first poem is in response to Chagall's painting, Homage to Apollinaire. My poem is called From That Same Breath. When we rose up from the dirt, we rose as one. We put 2 feet on the ground, the breath blown in to one pair of lungs. You are she, I am he. We are the melange of humanity, all glory and shame, the goodness exalted in us both, though we cower in fear of what we do not know but desire. From that same breath, we found a wonder for the world and what it promises. We hold up this circle of longing for what comes now, our sacred state of being. The next piece is based on the Berg painting called, I think it's called The Cycle of Humanity. My poem is called The Fruit That Flowers. The bones of the goddess Nut arc over this circle of longing, even as I push upward on my life force, the blood of my womb, what waters this garden. Behold the fruit that flowers, the promise of nourishment and beauty, what I gave the world. You saw temptation, misunderstood the food of life. Eat this and grow, thrive, become. We are all aching to live. This tree of life I give my blood to reaches up to the empty belly of Nut as the stars cascade within her. She will carry you in your endless desire to return to me. The last piece is based on a artwork by Fred Tomaselli, and it's called Momentum. Flames lick the lines exploding from the center, the momentum that compels us forward, away from its core. The eyes still watch us, follow the curve of our flesh as we are scuttled from glory. No hand to push us, only raw force from within. I am looking straight ahead, the light of this explosion helping me lead you out of this place. This is not the burning of any god, but the moment of birth pushing us, bloody and wailing, into the world. We longed for comfort. Now we must find our way out to live among the rest. These birds command us to fly, to take on their plumage, make wings for ourselves until we can take to the skies. Let the eyes follow us, know the path we choose, commit to memory how it is we come into the world. Naked, yes, but burning with desire. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Eric Stark, and I've had the pleasure and honor of being on the faculty of the seminar this year. A year ago, I was here for this event with a lot of the same singers that you're seeing come onto the stage now. Sandy had asked us to come and sing Copland's masterpiece in the beginning for a cappella chorus with mezzo-soprano soloist. And at that time, she was also talking to me about perhaps joining the faculty this year for a seminar that would include kind of further exploration of the Genesis account. the creation account. And so this summer, as I was perusing choral scores for my students to sing, this next piece that we're going to sing for you came across my desk, and I thought, oh, this might be a really interesting one for us to learn and present for the seminar if they'd be interested in having it. It's a piece called All Is, and it's written by a friend of mine, a composer by the name of Dominic Diorio. Dominic is a choral conductor on the faculty at the Jacobs School of Music at Indiana University in Bloomington, and not only a very fine conductor, but a marvelous composer as well. And he has collaborated on a number of pieces with a poet from Texas named Misha Pinton. And it's her poetry that he set in this piece called All Is. It's a bit of a creation, it is a creation story, although different from ones that we've been considering tonight for the most part. And it uses as its kind of central construct the image of a mother presented by the soprano soloist tonight, who is watching her young son. And her young son has been out playing in the cornfields and is kind of sweaty and gross because he's been, little boy playing out in the dirt. But he's God. And in his pocket, God has little marbles that become the planets of creation. And at a very inspired moment, he takes one. He says, this will be a special one. This will be the best one of the bunch. And he flings it out into space, and that kind of sets the cosmos into motion. But the poet has set a surprise for us at the end of her poem and at the end of Dominic's composition. Oftentimes we think of the possibility of the creative act as only in terms of positives. But she reminds us that because we're human and we're flawed, there's lots of ways that can go. And so the poem reminds us of that in a very poignant and touching way. I'd like to just read a little bit of the beginning of the poem for you. I won't give away the ending, I promise, but I'd just like you to have some of the voices kind of in your ear as we take them to music. So it starts like this. First day. My little boy stands with his back to where he'd like the trees to be. Darkness smooths out the low baby hills into starless, not yet horizon, laid out before his eyes in I want to waves. His blue jeans, all dirt and wonder from an afternoon wishing for sun. His hair, barely blonde on the not yet first ever night breezes. His freckles, a pattern of tomorrow worlds, running through cornfield sweat and the very newest bee pollen dust. A striped blue and white grass-stained shirt untucked on this not yet first ever day. That sets the stage for us. We hope that you enjoy this piece as much as we've enjoyed preparing it for you. We thank you and Sandy especially for the invitation to share some music with you tonight. It's a real pleasure for all of us. And I'd like to ask you to help me welcome to the stage not just the Butler Chorale, but our wonderful soloist, Jordan Newitt, our wonderful violist, Megan Barnett, and our wonderful pianist, Liz Goodenough.
That concludes our program. I want to thank you all for coming. The artists will be around for a little bit afterwards. Feel free to talk to Eric, the chorale, to all the artists who have name tags on. And if you have any questions about the program, I will be around as well. Thank you all for coming.